Hey guys, Bryce's Crypto here. Just want to make a short video today explaining what Ripple is doing with on-demand liquidity and XRP is going to essentially overtake the Swift network um, and overtake all of the international um, payment flows that go through the Swift network, which is in the order of about $5 trillion a day, and why that it is virtually inevitable that that is going to happen. Um, but in order for us to understand why it's virtually guaranteed to overtake the SWIFT network and all the cross-border payments in general, we need to understand how the SWIFT network works and why it is so inferior to what they're developing. Um, this is an example of what happens when you need to send a international wire, which they call it an international wire transfer, but it's not even what it is. It doesn't exist. It's you know a wire from this bank to this bank to this bank to this bank, finally to that to the end user. But um, we'll just call it an international wire payment. Um, for example, we're going to use this and say, we own a business in California that's trying to buy some product from a foreign supplier who's located in Brazil. Um, in order to do that, us as the business, we only have to go down to our local bank and, tell them we want to do that. We fill out the paperwork or, get the routing number for their bank account and the destination. And, that's all we have to do on our end. But in order for that money to actually get there, it has to go through all these banks and all these middlemen, and all these fees get deducted as a result of that. And, it takes several days for this whole process to be completed many a times through the Swift network. Um, and that's the core problem is this is cumbersome. This is friction. This is slowing these payments down. The fact that it has to go through all these correspondent banks, um, that's the main problem with this. And when you use something like XRP and on-demand liquidity, you're not using any of these. You're just using XRP as the bridge, as the intermediary. And you have an exchange on one end, in the originating country for the payment, and then you have the exchange in the destination country. And that's it. You don't have, you don't have all these banks taking a fee, taking a cut of the payment because they have to process it. Um, and that adds a ton of fees. By the end of this, this bank charges $25, $7.50, $25 again. Um, then once that those funds get sent from your bank to that correspondent bank that holds a Nostro Vostro account with the correspondent bank in the um, destination currency in the destination country, once it gets there, uh, you have to pay a 2% um, spread because you have to pay the conversion rate for US dollars to, I mean, in this instance, it'd be Brazilian dollars, but you have to pay that on top of all these other fees. And it just ends up costing so much to send it, send a wire payment. And this is a huge problem. 137.30 has been deducted at the end of the day for just trying to send it from one country to another. And when you look at Ripple and what they're doing with XRP, we're talking about this is a 40 to 60% cost savings after you've joined RippleNet. Okay, so this is the 40-60% cost savings for institutions that are already using RippleNet. If an institution is on RippleNet, they've already started saving money on their payments. using RippleNet because it's cheaper than Swift already. It's basically a Swift 2.0. So even after that, they're saving an additional 40 to 60%, which is huge. So the cost ends up being one tenth of this number. Probably less. I'm not exactly sure how much less, like an exact percentage, but it is so much less. And there are two things that matter in virtually every single business, in industry or sector, and that is time and money. And that's all this saves. I mean, 3 seconds to settle. It doesn't actually complete the entire X-Rapid transaction in 3 seconds, okay, after you initiate it. But it settles in 3 seconds, and the entire transaction gets done within 80 to 100 seconds. So, 1 to 2 minutes, let's say. That's a lot better than taking, multiple days. I mean, this takes literally multiple days to complete sometimes, and that's just not cutting it in today's economy. We can send a text message. I can send a text message to somebody in another country. They get it, in 2 seconds. I can send an email, and somebody else gets it in 3 seconds. But I try to send a wire payment, to another country, and it takes 3 days, and it costs me 100 and some change. It's ridiculous. There's no way that this is going to survive, or that this is not going to change. As the economy and technology continues to evolve. I mean, there's just virtually no way that I could possibly see this surviving, unless there to be a major breakthrough in this banking system or an upgrade. But the thing is that they cannot compete with what Ripple's doing unless they're using a cryptocurrency as a bridge asset, and they don't have one. So they don't have one, and that's what it is. And that's why XRP and on-demand liquidity is going to overtake the payment volumes. Now, we need to understand that I think that it hasn't been adopted as quickly as people would like, or people would think, because you have these giant banks, right? These banks right here, these correspondent banks that are holding the Nostra Vostra accounts, okay, are charging fees. They are charging the fees to process these payments, and are making money off all these payments. So, they're perfectly fine with that being the case, because it generates revenue for them, processing these payments. But these banks, the small banks, are the ones that are not really generating any revenue from it, and that these are the banks that would benefit the most, because they would be able to cut out all the these correspondent banks, and they wouldn't have to pay to have a Nostra Vostra account with the correspondent bank, or use their correspondent bank's account. So it just ends up saving so much money, and it evens the playing field for the smaller banks and the medium-sized banks to be able to make payments across borders the same way a large bank would be able to. And eventually, when you have all these small and medium-sized banks being able to undercut the large banks' costs, if my bank can do a wire transfer for $10 internationally, and you still have to pay the large bank $80 or $100, which one are you going to choose? I mean, when you're able to offer a better service, that's faster and cheaper, in my opinion, there's really no question as to what people would want to use, or what would happen in that situation with all the users who use these services. So I think it's inevitable for that reason that XRP and on-demand liquidity is going to take over these payment volumes, which are in the $5 trillion a day range. Okay, and you look at the current price of XRP; it has a market cap of I think 9.5 billion right now, or let's just say 10 billion. It couldn't even process. If you try to send $10 billion, you would eat up the entire market cap of XRP, and at the current price, and that's just not. I mean, that's $10 billion payment. You know, there are payments that are larger than that. So the price needs to go up substantially to be able to not fluctuate due to these massive amounts of money flowing through the ledger. Um, so that that's basically the case for why XRP is going to succeed, and why it's going to it has to increase in price, and in my opinion, it's basically as close to a guarantee to succeed as you could think, because I can't think of an argument that goes against why this system would stick around when we have something that's so much better. I mean, that is not even close. Like, it's not even close. This technology versus Swift that's been around since 1970 and hasn't improved at all. So that's just my take on it, guys. I just wanted to outline some of the fundamental reasons and concepts behind why I think XRP is guaranteed to succeed in the long run. Probably in the short run too, but I don't know how long it's going to take. These banks, these regulators, they all just twiddle their thumbs, and they'll take however long they feel like to change the system, or to get it regulated, or whatever. And that is what it is. But eventually XRP and on-demand liquidity are going to overtake this entire correspondent banking system and overtake the payment flows within it as well. And that's going to lead to an XRP price that's much higher than it is currently. So there are a lot of other use cases for XRP. There are a lot of other great things that they're doing with it through Coil and Xspring and whatever else. But this is the main thing. This is what it was designed to do. This is the main thing, in my opinion. 5 trillion a day goes through these payment volumes, and this is one of the most important things that they're trying to do with it. So, once you understand why all of this is so cumbersome and costly and takes forever, and it's just so much friction, and why this is, way lower cost, zero friction, it's just a no-brainer. You know what I mean? It just doesn't even, to me, there's no argument as to why, again, that the industry would not eventually evolve into using this instead of this. So that's just my take on it, guys. If you liked the content, please leave a like, please subscribe, and I'm going to try to be back with another video tomorrow on some more fundamental concepts, and maybe explore some other use cases for XRP. I also want to talk about VeChain and what they're doing, because that is just, in my opinion, a sleeping giant. And the price that it's at right now, it is probably just, it's like a steal. Saying it's a steal doesn't even do justice. Like, it's more than a steal, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go into that in some of my next videos. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be back in another video.